All right, welcome. This is Promontory Decking's headquarters. This little shed where I'm broadcasting from is where I plan to build $1 million company. Now, I'm not so much worried about how much money the business makes, but I want to kind of introduce myself and let you guys know who I am, what my intentions are with this business, and how I plan to uniquely tackle the deck building market. A lot of guys that have been in the business for a long time, really, they do a great job of getting their name out there and building up a reputation and building as many projects as they can, crunching them out, figuring out how to scale and get bigger and add more guys to the team. And I came from a entertainment background. I spent 12 years playing in a band, and I'm going to try and lean on my experience in life and approach this a little bit differently. Now, I've been building decks on my own for about 6 years now, and I love it. I'm obsessed with it, to be honest. And I think about outdoor living and, the skills that I have and how I can really help a property or a homeowner I just want to I want to create beautiful things and places for people to gather, for people to admire some of the craftsmanship, some of the skill, some of the planning, some of the architecture, some of the design that goes into these decks that we get to build. And I know that there are a lot of builders out there that will approach contracting in a much different way than I will. And I have no track record of success. This is me trying to be who I am and doing what I'm good at doing and trying to provide my services and my value to the world. One of those things is meshing the skill that I have working with tools and trying to speak more on a microphone. I used to do this every single night in bars and clubs and theaters around the country, and I loved doing it. But in this channel, you're going to get a very clear and candid view of what it takes to build a business from the ground up. And you're going to learn some of these hard lessons with me on this journey. I think one of the things that's kind of working for me in a way is my naivete about it all. There's going to be a lot of people that probably have some tidbits to share about how I should run the business or how I should market the business. And I'm going to listen to everyone. I'm going to take in all of their advice, all of their criticisms, and I'm going to apply it where it is applicable in my own situation. But I really want to try and attack this differently. I want to try and be media focused. I want to get detailed videos of what we're doing. And I want to have it presented in a way that's palatable, entertaining, and informative. And in real time, you're going to watch me learn some lessons. Now, although I consider myself pretty good at building decks, I realize that there are so many things that I could learn that would make me better. And I'm going to lean on some relationships that I've built in the industry, and I'm hoping to create new ones as well. For instance, I really want to talk with all of my other local deck builders in the San Diego area. I want to understand how they came to be in the position that they're in. How many guys are you running? What is different or unique about your situation versus another builder that's in the area? There's a lot of things that I find about deck building just fascinating. Not just the actual act of building it, but selling a client on a project. Figuring out how to run a profitable business. How do other people get to that place? I'm not very worried about making a bunch of money doing this. I'm setting down this path with 100% gas down, pedal to the metal, because this is truly what I just love to do. And I could talk about decks. I could talk about products and tools all day long. So I figured, why not try and harness some of that passion, some of that enthusiasm, and share with other people why I love doing this so much. So a little bit of a backstory on me. And I've touched a little bit about some of this in my previous videos, but now that I've got this like set up here, and I've kind of got the things I need to just sit down and start cranking these out, I want to talk in depth about what got me to this point. And of course, we're going to have to dive into a couple other small avenues in later episodes with more detail. But for a broad stroke of the pen on how did Ethan decide to start a deck building business in San Diego with zero money and zero backing and zero partners. And so I'll just start from the top. I grew up with a stepdad who had an electrician business. And when I was younger, I worked for him. I learned how to rough houses. I learned how to, do panel work, switches, basically every run-of-the-mill electrical thing that an electrician does, I kind of did with him for many years. But at the time, I didn't really care much. As a teenager, I had dreams and aspirations of playing music in a band and going off to college, and my head wasn't in the game. But I learned a lot of really good things from my stepfather, and he was the pinnacle example of put up or shut up. And he showed up every single day for work, and he worked his butt off, and he got sweaty. And this was in Tucson, Arizona, mind you. So he'd get up in an attic filled with, fiberglass insulation and throw wire, and he really ground himself down and worked his butt off all the time. And he taught me a lot about work ethic. And that if you're going to show up for work, you show up and you get the things done that you said you're going to get done. And you show up on time. And you pay attention to the people that know more. And you try and learn every time you do something. Try to get faster. Try to get more efficient. How can I do this better? Always kind of in a state of self-reflection. Because, believe me, when I made mistakes, he would let me know. He would say, how are you going to do this better next time? And kind of trained my brain to care about the things that I do and realize that effort matters. So we'll fast forward a little bit. Started a little bit off in electrical. I went to college and I was like really interested in music. I had some childhood friends, a bunch of really dear close buddies of mine. And right after high school ended, we just kind of decided, like, let's move up to Flagstaff and start a band together. And what started out as like this innocent little thing, like, we'll go up there, I'll enroll in community college and we'll start this band. And we fell in love with it. It was so much fun. We got to play all these like forest parties, and we started making a bunch of friends and connections and playing with other bands in town. And we spent 4 years kind of growing in that as a band. And when college ended, none of us really wanted to do real things. We wanted to, and by real, I mean like go be an accountant or, be a contractor, whatever. We wanted to play in that band. And so that's what we did. We committed. We jumped in with both feet, and we booked as many tours as we possibly could stomach. And we were on the road constantly. And we released a few albums. We enjoyed some like subjective success. Played a bunch of festivals and, met some idols of ours in the industry, and it was really fun. And that went on for 12 years. And we'll if people want to hear about it more, I'll talk about it more. But I spent 12 years trying to be in this band, and we all had to kind of create our own roles to help us get to this common goal. And whatever that common goal was, I don't know exactly what we were trying to achieve, but we always wanted to be in that band, that just playing. That was like our, at that point, that was all we really wanted to do. So 12 years went by, and I slowly started to fall out of love with it. And the grind became harder, and I had fallen in love with she's my wife now, my girlfriend at the time, and I really wanted to like settle down. I didn't want to tour anymore, and I really needed to like sober up. I needed to get focused about my life, and I didn't have any sort of direction, to be quite honest, because I felt like we had kind of floundered. And I'm still close with all the guys in the band, but it ended so unceremoniously. I was drinking really heavily, involved with a bunch of other extracurricular activities, and I'd kind of lost control about what I wanted to do in life, who I wanted to be, who I wanted to become. And I knew I was getting married, and I knew I wanted to be a better man, and I wanted to be someone that I respected when I looked in the mirror. And for a long time there, I'd look in the mirror and I was just like really not pumped about who I had become, and some of the decisions I had made, and some of the stuff that I let dictate how I lived my life. So all this time that I was playing in the band, I was bartending, and I would come home from tour, and I'd be able to, I worked for one lady who owned a few different bars in Ocean Beach, and I'd come home and I would be able to pick up shifts, like whenever I wanted, basically. So I was able to get by for a long time playing, like having my feet in both lakes or whatever, however you'd say that. I don't know. And then COVID hit, and COVID showed me that no one gives a hoot about whether I'm going to be okay. And no one is going to worry about whether I have made enough money or I have enough food in my pantry to feed myself and my wife. And then we got pregnant. And during that time, I realized I need to figure out how to make money on my own, because I can't rely on other people anymore. And I was a little bit too old to be working for someone else at like $20-25 an hour. It just wasn't going to work out like that for me. So COVID showed me that no one cares. And so I decided that at that point, I was like, I need to figure out what to do. And I started doing like handyman stuff. Lots of handyman stuff. I worked through all the little apps. I had a couple different fictitious business names. E-Wade Deck and Fence, E-Wade Home Services, all this kind of stuff. While I'm trying to figure out what my direction is going to be. And not long after I started doing some of the like handyman stuff, I kind of relied heavily on my electrical stuff to get going. And a very dear friend of mine in San Diego, his name is John, and he ran a, moderately successful business doing plumbing, local plumbing. Anything from slab leaks to hot water installs to pedestal sinks to sweat. He taught me how to sweat pipe, taught me how to, just do basic plumbing stuff. And I learned a lot from him. I also learned a lot of things that like how I would not operate. But he's a dear friend of mine, and I thank him every day for teaching me all the things he did about plumbing, because it's kind of cohesive with what I do now. And so right as I started doing some of this handyman stuff, I'm doing a little bit of side work for my buddy doing plumbing. I started working for another GC, and I worked for this other deck builder before that as well. And the first deck builder that I worked for was like a really heavy drinker, kind of operated with some sweaty wads of cash in his pocket at all times. And, he knew what he was doing, but he also knew what he could get away with. And this is going to sound a little cliche, but I just felt like I could do everything that he does better. I could do marketing. I could talk with customers. I could treat staff members better. I could be better about scheduling. I could be more organized. I could just do things better. I just knew it that I could. Maybe not right then, but I could build something that was bigger and more grandiose than what I had kind of signed myself up for. But I loved the work. I loved building decks, and he had two other close friends of mine that were working for him, and it was fun. It was super fun to like build these structures and stand on them and be really proud about how much time and effort it took to do whatever that was. But I knew I couldn't work for him forever because he was a dead end and he was getting older. And I just kind of knew like, all right, it's my turn now. I'm going to figure out how to step into this space. So that doing handyman stuff, having John in my back pocket to do plumbing tasks, and then I started working for another GC, and his outfit was a little bit more, they didn't focus on decks so much. It was more like house renovations, design work, extensions of existing buildings. Now I'm not exactly sure if he was B2 or B1 or what his classification was, but I built a couple decks, and we'd like knock out a wall and put in a big old LVL beam and big sliding glass door, stuff like that. I worked on a couple different projects with him, but I was just a number for him, and I couldn't afford to keep working for him at what he could afford to pay me. So I decided then, like, I'm jumping in 100% on myself. No more trying to like find another contractor, find somebody else. Like I'm going to just try and figure it out all on my own. And if that means I got to take on a little bit of debt and hone in my direction, then that's what I'm going to do. So fast forward all that now, I've been operating as Promontory Decking for like a year and a half now. And this was like the beginning stages of getting the name, thinking about what I really wanted to do, where I really wanted to work. And it's still an ongoing changing thing, with this YouTube channel now, my intention is to share exactly what it takes or what I am experiencing trying to build this company. I'm going to have a different approach than all the other guys in town. And I want to try and make this a regular thing. And I I would love that if there's anybody out there paying attention to what is happening here to kind of share in the comments what you want to hear me talk about. Is it how much is payroll? How much are the workers' comp? Like, I want to be able to share all those things, the numbers, everything, complete transparency. I'm going to talk about current clients that I have that are driving me crazy. And I'm going to also talk about the best kind of clients, the ones that trust my vision and trust my bid and the way that I operate. And you're going to be able to see how those two types of clients, interact with me. You're going to know it. You're going to know it's straightforward. Like, you're going to get the lowdown. Obviously, I'm not going to name names, but if you decide to work with Promontory Decking, you best believe that how we interact is going to become content matter on this channel. Because I've dealt with a lot of both kinds of customers. And I'm going to always be really honest and accountable to myself about where I need to get better. For instance, we may not be the fastest guys out there, the fastest crew. And I'm not afraid of making financial mistakes because I'm in no rush to get to any sort of metric or any sort of number at any time soon. So it's going to be a slow walk, and we're going to try and figure it all out at the same time. And you're going to be along this journey with me. So we'll touch more on this again in other episodes, but this is kind of more like a test run with the new set. I want to see if, people dig that. And if they don't, whatever. I don't care. I'm not making it for them. I'm making it for the people who do. So, cheers. Thank you for paying attention. We'll have some more episodes coming up soon, and we'll start honing in some topics that we can talk about that will give you a little bit of insight about what we deal with on a daily basis. The stress, the victories, the defeats, all those things. All right. Cheers. Thank you.